We're going to fucking chase this car. Police officer goes, sign phone car. He goes, okay, name, address, take it.
There is so much BS out there when it comes to how to actually be a millionaire. Just think positive, just man. Outsider, within the realm of school, I failed in every single arena you could think of. Secret traits that you need to have to become a millionaire. What society, what are weak, surround him and goes, yeah, I'm better than you guys. This, I worked my face. I'll be honest, my main Instagram is just need to do like Q&A in order to be a king. And time in, first you need to be a entrepreneurial venture. You're gonna be the one. Millions of followers, Iman, so you can just you have to hear. Go ahead and follow that. Just no connect. You're never opening up to my. Just shut the up. The first one is going to purchase the aircraft. They won't put in the work. Respectful towards what I'm working towards. If you want to have that just and you want to find some main things I can speak to you for you. Right as an end, you're not as a normal self-help party.
First of all, a big misconception people have is that Iman Gadzhi's editing is only because of his animations. And this is why I think it's very funny to see all of these, tutorials on how to edit like Iman Gadzhi. And then they just show how to make animations like Iman Gadzhi, even though the animations still not only makes Iman Gadzhi's editing, and the setup side is much more noticeable. You can see all these creators trying to copy paste Iman's style, which I think is very funny and embarrassing. And the funny thing is because people miss the actual sound design part of his editing. When you see all of these copycats, it just feels cheap. I want to actually show you some videos to actually really emphasize what I'm talking about. So
when you see videos like this online, it is from people who are frugal penny pinchers trying to shame you for spending money. When the honest truth is, if they had money, they would buy the exact same things that they're advising you not to buy. Oh, don't spend $5 a day on your Starbucks coffee. Dumb. Anyways, I am making this video because a lot of you guys know I budget $2.5 million a year.
The editing here, it's not something impressive. Like any decent editor could make something like this, but it still has that Iman Gadzhi taste. And my point is, it's very important that in your videos, you're actually putting effort into the music, and people just disregard this part completely. Let me just show you another example here. So this.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're gonna wanna listen very, very closely to today's video, because in today's video, I'm gonna show you the 17 money secrets to make your first million. These are the money secrets I used to make my first $100,000, my first $1 million, my first 10.
Again, this is really, you feel that very high quality documentary style, but the editing here is really, it's so simple. And people just, I don't know what's the trend of, trying to animate like Iman Gadzhi. Also in the subtle editing, like in terms of the zoom, for example, this is not impressive editing, right? It's just...
Ladies and gentlemen, you're gonna wanna listen very, very closely to today's video, because in today's video, I'm gonna show you the 17 money secrets to make your first million. These are the...
Now to find this music, Iman uses two platforms, which are, it's not a secret, which is Artlist. And in my opinion, Artlist is the best platform by far. Also, Iman, most of his soundtracks is from Artlist. So like,
ladies and gentlemen,
this for example, I think it's like Beyond the Earth, I think. No, wait, it's not this one. This album, and it's Valley of Gold. So this is the song. Anyway, so it's this high quality documentary music. I think Artlist is the best. And the second one is Epidemic Sound. Also pretty popular. I think In my opinion, Artlist is better than Epidemic just because it fits more to the music I use. So these are the two ones. I'm guessing it's only both of them just because most of the music they use, are pretty popular, and I know they're in here because I use both of these apps so long. And another one they use is licked.co. This is, I don't think they ever use this for Talking Head, but the vlogs, just to get, copyright free for modern songs. So that's where pretty much every creator, if you see a modern song, they use it unless they got personal permission from the creator. And in terms of finding music, it's really simple, but let me just go to music here. So you can go to mood. Let's say we're in the point of view of, editing for Iman in the style, he does. So I'm guessing it's mysterious, maybe ambient. And now pretty much we'll probably see a lot of music he uses. So also fragments. Again, this one too. Also, this one was one of his events. He used this one. Also, see if I can see anything, some familiar uses too. No, I don't think anything here. Blue Beings, for example, too. We already saw one, but this is another version of it. Pretty much the same for all of them. Now, let me just open quickly Premiere Pro. Again, if you don't use Premiere Pro, it's something different. The same thing apply. It's not, it's, if you use DaVinci, the same thing apply, but I'm just going to use here an example. Let me just open a new project. Let's say test 20. And here, if I put some sort of footage here. Okay, so I have here, I'll just use this as an example, but this is some renders I had for this video. So let's just take this as an example. I'm just going to remove the soundtrack here because I use a different sound, but let's take this as an example. So let's just go to Artlist, music. Let's see if I can pick out something here. Yeah, this list is long. And so let's just see if I can find something here. Let's take this one, for example, Vision. Let's take from here. So it's not any rocket science. I think the videos I personally like more that Iman did are the videos that he actually focuses a lot on the music and having kind of high volume music. And so he just doesn't lower it too much. So maybe we can just add like a low pass and just keyframe this here. See if we can make this a little intensive. So here, let's start here. Let's try 400. Something like this. Also, again, he keeps it pretty loud. I'll do like -5 on gain, but it's really something like that, and maybe just close it off with a reverb. So like something like this. Maybe slightly lower, cut off. It'll be something really as simple as this. Maybe instead of a constant gain here, we can actually just manually up the volume when it shows. So something like this. And just make it start lower, and we can keep like a slight constant gain. And we can kind of raise this, with how it goes by. You can kind of control here, make it kind of go up. Something like this. So really something as simple as this. It really isn't that complicated, and maybe adding some impact, reverse impact. And though it's important to say that this is a lot easier to nail. So it's a lot easier to learn, but with the animations, these are animations made by people who have been editing for 5, 6, 7 years plus. And so I think it's harder to nail. This is something you can learn and master relatively quickly. But what is really complicated is how to actually animate some of his higher quality animations. And that's what I'm going to reveal to you. If we reverse engineer the steps, getting the assets is not the first step. Our entire goal with making animations and even with Iman Gadzhi is just to complement what Iman Gadzhi is saying. Look, I'll be honest, this is something I cannot teach you. How to, think creatively. This is something you learn from either you have, insane talent and, you're very creative, or this is something you can get with practice. What I actually used to do is I used to make the sketch of the animation in Photoshop, and then I would bring it into After Effects and animate it. So if that, you could try it out, or literally just, you know, draw kind of the idea of the animation, and that could kind of build that visual thinking with time. But don't try to be someone else. You can have your unique way of making animations, and you shouldn't, it should be a creative way to complement what the creator is saying. And in this case, Iman's editor went a very interesting approach with this animation. Really, it's not that deep, but you have to understand that if you're not able to think of animations, then it doesn't matter how good you are. So you have to be able to kind of find your way of editing, your creative way, and go with that. But anyways, the first step after, you know, you kind of figure out your own thing, this kind of framework applies really to any animation you would want to make. So the first step is getting the assets. So I'll just go ahead and open Google right here. For me, it just makes the most sense to get started with the, you know, the more obvious ones like the 3D model. So I'll just go ahead and go to Sketchfab and search up Compass. Because I know they use the same one, I know I'll find the original one. So actually, you know, we're taking this seriously. I will actually try to replicate this. So let's see. Okay, so it's this one. Yeah, so pretty easy. This is the original model used in the video. So we can just scroll down, go to download 3D model. It doesn't really matter if they had the Blender format here, I would have gone with it, but because it really doesn't matter that much, I'll go with the GLB just because it comes with the texture in it, and I don't want to kind of mess around with, you know, putting the texture and everything. So I'll just go with GLB. So we could just go ahead and click download. Now we can go ahead and open Blender, and we get this default setup. Just delete those. Now go here to file, imports, and go to GLB, go to downloads, and we can go and search vintage and go ahead and click here. Now we can go to the rendered mode, and you can scale this up a little by pressing S and dragging on your mouse. Now let's slightly bring this up here. Now we can add the background. So go to file, import, and images as planes, and we can double click on this. Now we can add some lighting. So go to light, and we'll add a sun, and we can increase the strength of this. Now you get something like this. After setting this up in the background, I just added some to make it more realistic, added some noise and roughness. So I have here the shader editor, and you can kind of see, so adding a noise texture here, and that kind of adds that realistic tone to it, and also with the light and everything. You could have, in general, you could have added environment here for the transition here. So the concept is that it kind of builds into a compass. So let's take the glass first as an example. So we have here the keyframes. Let's say this was the, you know, without the keyframes. So let me just delete this. You can just click I and press location. And this is kind of a keyframe, like pretty much in any editing software. And then we can go to the start, and I can just slightly move this up. Let's say something like this, and then you get this going down animation. We can highlight all of this, and we can kind of change the graph editor here, and you can kind of play with this. It's really similar to any editing software. So let's say I want to make it so it starts really fast and then kind of slows down. We can drag this here, and now it will fall very fast and then go slow. Or, you know, we can do the opposite. So we can go up here, and we can make it start slightly slower and make it fall fast. So something like this, but I just kept it as is. So I can just Control Z this. Same thing applies for both of these in the needle. Let's say this one. So the default is that it's inside a compass. So we can just delete this, press I, location, go to the start, and kind of make this slightly higher here. You can make it slightly smoother, and really just something like this. Now with the needle, it is slightly different, is that it's falling down, but it's also rotating, and then it continues rotating after it falls down. The same thing applies with location. You can just go to, instead of only location, you can location and rotation, for example, and then it kind of continues for a little, so it matches the 2D animation. So when the transition happens, you can really understand that it goes from the 3D to the 2D. Now pretty much the same thing with the camera. So we can just delete all of this. So we can add a location and rotation keyframe, and then press R, X, X, And now you can kind of add this, something like this, maybe even slightly more, and you get this. We can play with, we can obviously adjust this, but this is pretty much the idea. Once I finished everything, I can render this. So render and render animation, and this is going to take like 2 or 3 hours for this, 1.5 seconds animation, but I already rendered this, so I can close this and we can go and open After Effects. Now that we're in After Effects, you can put the Blender render into After Effects. And now we can get to the second part. This is already the final result. Now let me just put a solid here, just to separate here. This is already the final result. So I'm just gonna put this away and I'm going to remake this. So let's get the background and we can slightly scale this down, get the 2D compass design over here to the compass, and I can put it into After Effects. I recreated the design in Photoshop again, but you have to look in the perspective as if, you didn't have this outline. The editor himself didn't have something to recreate from. It was completely from scratch. So you have to keep that in mind. Seeing this, you can kind of understand the creative idea from seeing the 3D. I'm not sure if he, made the 3D animation. He had everything planned out and he said, okay, this is how the 3D model looks like, and I'll just recreate it into a design. Also, this isn't, any rocket science, Photoshop. It's really just, you can see it's a couple of circles, different colors, some, drop shadow. This is pretty much the design. And so we can put it into After Effects and we can press OK, and you can slightly scale this down. Now I'm going to create the outline circle. So I'm going to add a grid here to stay symmetrical, and I'm just going to press here in the center, Control Shift, something like this. Slightly maybe scale this down. Perfect. We can let's slightly scale this down too. And then it's really just adding these 7 lines all around, adding a dash to it, contents, stroke, and we can add a slight dash here. Something like this, more straight, and then it's just duplicating it another 6 times, and then putting it around. This isn't rocket science, and then you get to basically this point. Now really, so it's just okay, so scaling this up and rotating it. So all you need to do this is we're going to select all of the lines, the dashed lines and the numbers, and we're just going to link it to the outer circle. I'm now seeing this, but I did it kind of differently for some reason. What I did is I just linked everything to the 1, and then I linked the 1 to the outer circle, and then I changed the anchor point of the 1 to be in the center so that it does the same effect of the circle. Typically it will be just better to just select everything and just link it to the circle, because the circle has the center anchor point of everything, which is our goal. So I'm guessing the 1 has some keyframes. Yeah, so we can just disable this. Also the scale is with this, so basically let me just delete the keyframes here. So really all it is, okay, I did a mistake here. So wait, first let me disable all of the keyframes, and now we can link everything to the outer circle, and now the 1 stays here. In terms of the scale, we can open this up now, and this is just basically everything follows. So we can scale this down to here, and then it kind of opens up, and then really we can press Shift R and open the rotation, and we can kind of rotate this however it is. And then if you kind of change the keyframes, then you can kind of make this longer and play with the keyframes, speed graph or value graph, and we can replicate the exact same thing. Then we can add motion blur. So I think it's really, the motion blur here is very high. So yeah, 400, that is very high. I typically go to 180 typically, but I just increased it for this animation. Anyways, then if you go here to the 2D compass design, we can see the needle here moves. The reason for this is so that when the transformation from the 3D to the 2D in the animation, the compass needle is synced with the 3D to the 2D. So all it is, as you can see here with rotation, and the animation cuts in exactly when it's fastest. So around here when it's the fastest. This is pretty simple, nothing crazy, just keyframe, kind of rotating it a bit to match, the 3D one, just ease, and you get this. Obviously make sure the anchor point here is in the center, so it actually is symmetrical. And yeah, and then the outer circle is linked to the null, which is basically all of the movement. Also the background is linked to the null, the movement, because the background is the only thing that isn't linked to the outer circle. So both of them are linked to the null, and because all of them are linked to the outer circle, everything, basically the null controls all of the movement in the animation. So all of the zooms here are from this null. Now I just added some simple turbulent displays. there's enough tutorials talking about these basic things. I don't want to talk about this too much, but you know, just simple turbulent displace on the, let me just disable the motion blur on the basically everything in the animation, even the background, I think. Yeah, even the background. So basically everything is with turbulent displace, making this kind of cartoony, you know, feel, you know, on the edges thing. Now the last thing is just the transition between the 3D to the 2D. So this is really pretty simple. I can press Ctrl Y and create a new solid and call it fractal noise. And we can add to it fractal noise. By the way, this shortcut plugin is just from Copilot called FX Console. It's completely free. Now you just want to increase the contrast here, so it's only black and white. Now we can add curves to this and just drag this here. And this here. Now we can keyframe the brightness, and then we can make it from completely white to completely black. You can press shift on your keyboard while swiping and it makes it faster. Now we can pre-compose this, and we can press OK. We can change this to transition. And then really after this, it's only, I have the original here. After this, it's just creating another solid with a linear wipe, basically making this transition. And then just on the fractal noise composition, adding a time displacement. So it'll just be pre-compose, create a new solid, call this a wipe, and we'll just duplicate this twice, call this top and bottom, switch between them, and then just add a linear wipe, all of that. And then you do it so 180 degrees, and basically you make the reveal transition. And then you just pre-compose both of them, and you would pre-compose this, and we can call this wipe, and then just adding a time displacement on the fractal noise one, changing it to the wipe, and then changing to effects and masks, and then you can change this to minus or negative 0.1, and then you just put it here. You will take the blender render we have, take the track matte and mask it to the transition, and then you get something like this. Now the last thing, you can either add this here or, you know, pre-compose all of this and then add it. I typically like just adding it in the same composition. It doesn't really matter, but I'm just gonna get this grain overlay. I'm 99% positive this is the exact one Iman uses. If not, it's pretty much almost identical. Then we'll just change the blending mode to screen. And now after you put everything together, you can pre-compose this. Let's just call this final, just final. And I can add posterize time to this, and I'll do this at around 15. This what controls, I'm guessing pretty familiar with this, but for context, this is just what controls the frame rate. And so we set it to be 15. And then after you put everything together and all the small finish ups, you get this final result.